Welcome everybody to the IEF Conservation Chat. As folks are logging on, I just want to let everybody know that we are going to be recording this call. So, and then after the chat is over, we'll be able to forward the video to some folks that wanted to join us live, but weren't able to actually make the time. So we will be recording. And as we go through our presentation this morning, we ask that if you have any questions that you utilize the chat feature, which is in the bottom of your screen. You will see where it says chat. So if you don't mind typing your questions into the chat portion of this of Zoom. And then at the end, if we have time, we may actually let people unmute and ask questions live. We've done that in the past. So we'll just see how time goes and how many questions that we have. But again, welcome everybody, and we're excited for our speaker today. And with that, I'm going to introduce Sarah Conley. She is International Elephant Foundation's Conservation Coordinator, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about our speaker this morning.
Thanks, Julie. Good morning or afternoon or evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. We're very excited for today's speaker, Dr. Christopher Stremme. Born in Germany, he's a trained zoo animal keeper, elephant handler, and veterinarian. Dr. Stremme has more than 20 years of experience working with elephants as a professional elephant handler and wildlife veterinarian in multiple prestigious zoos, both for elephant conservation and welfare programs in many Asian range countries as well. Since 2004, he's been living in Sumatra, Indonesia, where he has worked on various projects for captive and wild Sumatran elephant welfare and conservation programs, including a program supported by IEF, the Elephant Response Units, or ERUs, in Way Kambas National Park. Dr. Stremme is also supervisor of Komunitas Hutan Untuk Sumatra, the NGO that is the Indonesian nonprofit conservation organization that IEF partners with in country in Indonesia, Sumatra. In 2015, Dr. Stremme joined the veterinary faculty of a university in Banda Aceh in Indonesia as an associated lecturer and an officer for the program development with the Center for Wildlife Studies. His unique intersection of knowledge and field work will make him an excellent and informative guest for today's conservation chat, and we are so very excited to have him here to share his great work with you guys. Dr. Stremme, good morning or good afternoon.
Good morning.
Or evening.
At my place, it's evening already, but good morning to the United States and from wherever you're joining. Thank you very much for the introduction, Sarah. And yeah, I think from my point, with no further ado, I would like to give you a little bit an overview about the conservation work that IEF supports in the Way Kambas National Park. So if you agree, Sarah, I would just start to share my screen now.
Please, yes, we would love it.
So can you view my screen already?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, that was too fast. I need to find just a second. Okay, this is probably what most of you know already, the past and recent, roughly the distribution of Asian elephants. Here we have Sumatra, and originally most of parts of Sumatra were elephant habitat, but now there's only a very small population left. And the Sumatran elephant is one of the 4 subspecies of the Asian elephant, which is in average slightly smaller than the mainland and the Sri Lankan subspecies. And due to the conservation situation where the population is very small, it's the only subspecies currently of the Asian elephant which is ranked as critically endangered by the IUCN Red List. So some special features of the Sumatran elephant is that the male elephants, the tusk of the male elephants usually are very straight downwards shaped, not like many in India, rather forward shaped. You can see this one already very straight downward shape, a little bit similar like the African forest elephants. Many of them have very long tails up to the length that they actually touch the ground. Often they have relatively large ears for an Asian elephant. And they had supposed from some anatomical studies, not from myself, but from Shoshani, has reported that the Sumatran elephant has 21 pairs of ribs in the opposite to the other subspecies only have 19 or 20. The habitat of the Sumatran elephant is the tropical lowland rainforest. And here comes the problem, because this tropical lowland forest has mostly disappeared over the years. So what is left today is mostly mountain range. On the western flank of Sumatra, there's the Bukit Barisan mountain range, which are mountains up to 3,800 meters above sea level. And of course, this is not habitat which is preferred or actually even suitable for elephants. Most of the original habitat from the Sumatran elephants is in the lowland area down here, which is widely deforested by today. So it is deforested for oil palm plantation, rubber plantations, pulp and paper. So that is what large parts of the lowland area of Sumatra look like today. So with losing their habitat, elephants, of course, they also leave their habitat, look for food sources outside their habitat, come in conflict with people, destroy crops, destroy houses, even also something, of course, people get killed, and the conflict explodes and retaliation. We often end up with these kinds of pictures, a herd of wild elephants on the edge of a newly cultivated area, on a locked and cultivated area is poisoned here, where 7 elephants where we had to do get post-mortem samples from the stomach for forensics, which also was not a very enjoyable work. So that is very roughly the situation what we have today. And red are some of the parts where still some smaller fragmented elephant populations are left. The wild population is optimistically estimated currently between 900 and 1,200 elephants, and probably about 450 wild Sumatran elephants. So these captive Sumatran elephants, sorry, 450 captive Sumatran elephants. These about 450 captive Sumatran elephants are originated from a capture operation from the Indonesian government, which has been implemented between the mid of the 80s until the end of the 90s. And these elephants actually were not captured because the government wanted to have them for domestication, but to reduce conflicts. So there was an operation to capture conflict elephants from conflict areas, and they were brought that time in newly established government elephant camps. Of course, the major problem was that the major issue of habitat destruction and loss was not really addressed. It was kind of treating the symptom, and the government camps were relatively poorly managed. So many elephants actually also died in the camps, and also some were transferred to zoos and safari parks throughout Indonesia. But the general management and care in the government camps was actually widely insufficient. That was also a scenario where I think in the early 2000s, Deborah, you might correct me, first time IEF stepped in and started to support some Sumatran elephant conservation and welfare work in Sumatra. And this red dot here, that's the Way Kambas National Park. That's what I want to talk about, what we are doing there. So in some conservation groups, initially NGOs, different NGOs, try to find a part of a solution for that by utilizing some of these captured elephants, these trained elephants, in smaller groups in conservation areas for forest patrols and human-elephant conflict management. Yeah? And that is also what we have initiated, or what I'm involved in since 2006 in Way Kambas National Park, where we have now established 4 so-called elephant patrol units since 2010. Braja Harusari, the last one was in 2018. So these are the 4 camps. And down here. So in the places where these camps are established inside the national park are located in areas which are known as human-elephant conflict hotspots. So these are areas around here where the conflict incidence was very, very high, and also down here where the conflict incidence was very, very high. So we have trained captive elephants, we have mahouts from the national park, but we have also in our teams people from the local community which have been trained as mahouts and conservation staff. So what we're actually doing there, one of the works that the elephant patrol units do, the elephant response units do, they do regular patrols inside the national park, especially in the border area, in the conflict areas, or in the areas close to the conflict zones, to monitor wild elephant groups. First of all, to know where the elephants are and know where they are. So it works in two sides, also to protect the elephants, but also to prevent, ideally, the elephants from leaving the national park area. So here you can see how the ERUs approach a wild elephant herd, which is in an area of the national park relatively close to the border, to see what they're doing, where they're migrating, or if there is the need to interfere and maybe drive the elephant away from the national park border. And also give the information about the whereabouts of the elephants to the local community groups. So in the evening and the night, local community groups together with the team members from the ERUs will do so-called night crop guarding outside the national park directly on the border. So to be already presence at the border when the elephants would try to penetrate the border and reach into farmland, so that anticipate the conflict before it happens, ideally. So this is another scenario where a wild herd actually by the patrol team is approached and is driven away. So again, the information about the whereabouts of the elephants and where they are going is very important to forward to the night crop guarding teams that will then find the right place outside on the national park border to be ready when elephants try to approach the border, to drive them back in the night time and not to penetrate the border and reach into farmlands. This is Mr. Dougal, one of the biggest iconic bulls, who is very confident and not easy to scare, and is a notorious crop raider. But as you maybe saw before, we have fitted a GPS collar on this elephant so we can allocate its position. And here it is sometimes needed to use fireworks to make much noise, to convince him that he really has to leave this place and withdraw back into the forest. So this is what I just said. This is the crop night guarding on the Way Kambas National Park border. So we want to have the teams on the border before the elephants are able to pass the border. Yeah. So here you can also see pictures where the elephants are actually right on the border. In here in the late afternoon, early evening, with the flashlights, they shine the elephants, so to prevent the elephants from passing the border. That is a very important part of the human-elephant conflict mitigation strategy, and only works well if you have good information about the whereabouts and the migration routes of the elephants. We have also a few elephants fitted with GPS collars inside the national park, which of course helps immensely to understand their migration routes and the whereabouts of the elephants. So this is scenarios which we actually do not have anymore today. Elephants, before we started this work, or in the beginning when elephants reached out of the national park far and wide, many kilometers and sometimes for days, and only response was done when the elephants had left the national park and had a lot of damage. So these are actually pictures which we nowadays do not find anymore. Sometimes elephants still get out of the national park, but the crop guarding teams are already on site and they will be immediately driven back into national park. So the overall, the total crop damage has massively declined. So I would say about 95% to the amount that has happened before the establishment of these patrol units. Another thing that the patrol units do during their forest patrols, they monitor sightings of wildlife, direct or indirect. Here we have a pangolin in the tree. Here we have a footprint from a Sumatran tiger inside the national park, or here is a footprint from a Malayan tapir. So this is all data that is recorded and goes into the database of the national park, which is important for the national park to import a report and document its importance as protected area, yeah? So that the central government has no justification to maybe change the status of this protected area, because sometimes people argue, oh, there's not important wildlife in this area, we can change the status and maybe utilize parts of this area for cultivation or for any commercial activities. Therefore, this documentation of the presence of wildlife is very important. Also, the detection and prevention of illegal activities. Here, a muntjak that has been caught in a wire snare. This luckily was still very recently, so this has been freed and survived, but this one was dead already when the ERU found it. And here is one of the humans just discovering a wire snare. Or this is bird netting, also happens in the national park. That is something. So the ERU units during their patrols also detect snares and remove these snares. And in some cases, we're able to capture actually poachers red-handed. And actually, these two guys got arrested, and the Way Kambas National Park was actually able to get this case to court. And these two guys were sentenced to imprisonment for 2 years and 8 months, which is actually a relatively rare success, but has a quite significant impact on groups that are involved in poaching inside the national park. Also, illegal logging is detected inside the national park. These also are pictures from the beginning of the activities. Now we rarely find these cases anymore. So then confiscating the logs was also part of the work. Rarely now we find it anymore in the areas where the ERUs are working. Fighting forest fires also, when the ERUs detecting forest fires, they help to fight forest fires. Sometimes they have to do it by themselves because the firefighting units from the national park busy somewhere else. So that also has become a relatively regular activity during the dry season inside the national park. And rescue of injured elephants. So here we have 2 different cases. It was an elephant that has a foot injury and was limping, and this is an elephant baby that has snared off, obviously from a wire snare, part of its trunk. And the ERUs were not interfering immediately, but they monitored these elephants with these groups, but they saw that both of these calves continuously were declining in body condition because they were not able to follow the herds and consume enough food to maintain their body condition. So over the months that they were monitored, they continuously declined in body condition. And finally, there was the decision to be made to take both of these animals into captivity to rescue and save their lives. Other cases, like in these 2 cases, this is a juvenile elephant which had been trapped in a wire snare, but the snare could be removed. And the elephant was treated and was directly released back into the forest, which of course is the best to do. Or here we have a case where a wild elephant with a calf got stuck in a artificially moat on the border of the national park. And the elephant was actually not able anymore, because the moat was deep and the mud was deep, was not able anymore to get out of it with his calf. And after a day was completely exhausted, continuously trying to get out of it. Here also the ERU had interfered with the, sorry, now is the, it's supposed to be a video, which is not now not running. I don't know why. Well, unfortunately, this video, I don't know, when we tried it before, it was running, this video, but now it's not running. So here you see this wild elephant, which with the help of the captive elephant is dragged and pushed out of the moat. The calf has been already rescued, so that was easy with a big male with a tusk to pull this and push this calf out of the mud. And for its comfort, a female captive elephant was also brought to the side, so it joined with a female captive elephant until his mother was also rescued and was helped to get out of the mud. So such cases we have, every year we have at least 2-3 cases like that where we are involved in the rescue or treatment of injured wild elephants or wild elephants in trouble. So what for us, of course, is very important that our captive elephants are healthy and well maintained. For me as a veterinarian, of course, that is also something that is very important for me personally. And so we do regular health checks on the elephants, including various kind of activities, giving them regular dewormings, food care, basic things, weighing the elephants. Here we have a digital scale. We can weigh the elephants. We do that regular to monitor the body condition of the elephants, monitoring the reproductive status, especially of the female elephants or the pregnancies of female elephants, as part of the entire healthcare program of the elephants. And the elephants, of course, regularly bathed in nearby rivers as a group together with the calves. This activity which the elephants enjoy very much, and also helps to create a very close bond between the elephants in their mahouts. Furthermore, in each of the camps, we have also large electric fence paddocks, where we can keep the elephants if they're not for grazing inside the national park or not used for patrolling, so that the elephants have the possibility to also freely roam together and socialize together. Yeah, so that the elephants are not all the time chained individually when they're not used for activities, but that they can roam together and socialize together and perform normal social behavior, of course, including breeding. As you can see, we have also calves born here in the ERUs because the elephants can socialize together. So this is a very brief overview about the program, about the activities. I think there come a lot of advantages with this kind of utilization of captive elephants, employments of the elephants and mahouts in conservation activities. We have with this program early anticipation as well as a very flexible and immediate response to a conflict situation. We have multifunction, so they not only do the conflict mitigation, they also, as I showed, monitor the wildlife, they prevent illegal activities. We have a very, very much improved welfare situation for the captive elephants compared to the big government camps where they were housed before. We have local communities involving in the conservation works. We have local communities members employed as regular members of the ERUs as ERU staff. So we increase the capacity building of the mahouts and local community members with the conservation work. And it has, in fact, really significant impact on the local conservation situation. The understanding from local communities and the acceptance of local communities has much increased since they not suffer significant loss of crops anymore. And the protection of the national park or the areas where the ERUs are active has actually much improved. And luckily also the government starts to buy into this concept. Challenges, of course, is it's for us as an NGO, it is cost intensive to support that. Currently, most of the sources that are needed for these programs come from, not from the government, but come from NGOs like donations, fundraising, like, for example, IEF, who is supporting this program since many years. And of course, it's not as easy as just take 4 elephants and a few mahouts and place them somewhere. It really needs a proper management and skillful leadership and skillful staff to really make it effective. We have up to date, we do not have a self-sustaining captive population in Indonesia. There, and that not specifically applies only for the ERUs, but majorly for the entire captive population, including the captive population in zoos and safari parks. Over the years, I can see that the total population is declining because the captive breeding is rather happening accidental than really as a planned program. So for the future, if you want to maintain this concept, utilizing captive elephants for conservation programs, of course, we need also what we try to achieve in the EUs as well, achieve to establish a self-sustaining captive population. So I think that's in a nutshell. I want to thank very, very much IEF for its continuous long-term support, and also, of course, all the other donors. So it's a combined effort to establish that work, develop this work, and maintain this work. So I'm very grateful for having numbers of really dedicated supporters. Many of them are coming from the United States, like yourself. And I want to thank you for your attention and giving me the chance to show you a little bit of the work that we are doing with your support in Way Kambas in Sumatra. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Stremme. That was excellent. And I think everyone is pretty impressed with the work being done. We have already some questions in the chat. So Sylvia is asking, who provides training for the staff in the CRU or ERU units? What's involved? How long does it take? So maybe talk about how you get a new base camp going and how you find that staff and how you train them.
So for the training, as I mentioned before, the adult captive elephants that we are having in the units have been in captivity already since at least 10-15 years before we have started to utilize them in their use. They were kept in one of the big main government camps in Way Kambas, which is also part of the Way Kambas National Park. So they already have mahouts, and we have government mahouts which are already working with these elephants since many years. And some of them are really, really good. They have developed good experiences. And these senior mahouts will also teach the junior mahouts, which are recruited from the local communities as additional staff. In addition of that, of course, myself as a veterinarian and also as a former elephant handler, involving in training and education of mahouts about revising some handling techniques, management techniques, adding something. For example, training elephants for medical procedures was not existent before our involvement. That, of course, is something that I try to put a lot of effort in, so elephants can be easily and stress-free approached for foot care, for mouth inspection, for blood sampling, for ultrasound, so that any kind of medical procedures can be easily done with the elephants. For the specific training for field navigation, for example, how to use a GPS, how to use maps, there we have in the beginning had staff from senior staff from the national park. We had also some staff from other NGOs that came in and trained this. By now we have enough senior staff amongst our mahouts in the ERUs, which will train the junior mahouts, the new recruits which come from the local community, to train them about that, as well about legislation. We have also involved in each team is at least involved one staff from the national park with the level of forest police. So these people have also knowledge and education about legal aspects. So about the conservation laws and regulations, about the procedures, how arrests can be made, yeah, and what procedures have to be followed if arrests are made, and how evidence has to be collected if arrests are made. Otherwise, if we not follow these legal procedures, and if the teams are not know about these procedures, actually arrests would be illegal, and that would backfire, and actually staff from the EUs could be sued for illegally arresting people. So that is very important. By now, as we have this running this work already since 2010, we have enough senior staff within the ERUs which will train. However, we sometimes also have events of knowledge exchange with other NGOs, with WCS sometimes, and some other local NGOs about different to share knowledge about the different strategies of patrolling, how to set a camera trap, how to process illegal procedure with police if people are arrested. So there is an ongoing exchange with internal and external people, so with other staff from the national park and with staff from other NGOs. And if we set up now, recently we did not set up a new, the last new ERU has been set up in 2018 for the construction. For the last one in Rajahadosari, actually we got fully funded from IEF. IEF has completely funded the construction of the campsite. And once the campsite is ready, then in coordination with the national park, we will recruit new elephants from the main camp and mounts from the main camp. And then some senior mounts, 2 or 3 senior mounts from the other camps will start at least work for half a year up to a year with the new mahouts. And then staff from the communities will be recruited, and that will gradually over the next months and years will be trained to get all skills which are needed for this kind of work.
That is a lot of work that goes into this. I think people are just starting to realize how multifaceted all of this really is. We have a lot more questions. People are definitely engaging with what you're saying. Someone's asking, what is the ratio of females to males in the program? What is your typical must bull management?
So we usually have, but that also depends on the situation. In total, we have now 27 elephants, but of course we have also 6 captive-born calves, and we have 3 rescues calves. So the other elephants are the patrol elephants, and usually we have 2 females and 2 or 3, and sometimes depending where we are shifting, the elephants are not always in the same camp. Sometimes we have during a dry season a very intensive conflict situation in one area, then we need to bring more elephants to that particular camp. But in average we have 2 females and 2 to 3 male elephants, adult males. I'm talking about adults, not talking about the calves. And the must management, of course, depends individually very much on the individual bull. Not all of the male elephants that we have coming regular must, several do, and then depends. Some of the of the males we still can handle, or particular mounts can still handle these elephants. But if we cannot handle them directly, then for the period of must, there is no other option. They will be trained individually in a remote area where they're not being disturbed by anybody. And of course, they will be given regular food and water until they can be approached again, and until they can be taken off the chains. Very often, in most of the elephants, to the majority of the time, they can still be handled to the extent that they can be taken from their grazing ground to the river and can be bathed, but in the peak of must, most of them are not used for patrolling. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. I think we got some definite elephant nerds here asking kind of granular questions like that. Cora's asking, can you estimate about how big Way Kambas is, kilometers, say from east to west and then from north to south?
I can tell you that is in size 126,000 hectares. So I would need to look exactly on the map how many kilometers long and wide it is. So I know because we always have to count in hectares for the size that we are covering. So it's 126,000 hectares. So maybe you can calculate one, so that would be 1,260 square kilometers. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll do our own unit conversion after that.
So,
great. Well, we have someone who is planning to move to Sumatra in 2 years. Does KHS take volunteers?
Depends what your volunteering task is. So in principle in the ERU, so I am not permanently in ERUs. I'm the project manager, and I'm involved in a number of different projects, including my teaching and program with the veterinary faculty, which is completely on the other end of Sumatra in Aceh. So I'm flying forth and back a lot. So it depends what you want. If somebody would volunteer in the ERU for a certain time period, I would say we do not have a formal program for that. But I would also say that's not completely impossible. We do accept, but that has to go through the national park. The ERUs do accept volunteers. We have more or less regular interns from universities, from not necessarily from veterinary faculties, but from forestry faculties, from the forestry faculty in Lampung or also in Jakarta and other regions which are not too far away, who do sometimes some kind of internship which lasts from a week up to 2 months. So in principle, I would say it is possible, but it's not that we have a specific volunteer program from our organization.
Great. Well, Pamela, if you're interested, you can definitely email Julie and let us know, because we can connect you when the time comes. Can you talk a little bit more about the community involvement in promoting and expanding the ERUs? I know there's been a lot of community support and sort of information exchange between the units and the local farmers.
Yeah, well, I mean, the entire concept, what we are having for the conflict management, conflict mitigation, depends on a very close collaboration with the local communities. As I said, a part of the staff is local community staff, and the night guarding teams always consist of some people from the ERUs and people from the local community. So it is actually an ongoing exchange from the local communities to the ERUs and vice versa. So there is, I would say, there is not a single day where there is no communication between the teams. And initially, actually, when we started the first ERU in the north, there was a lot of hostility against anybody from the national park. So in the very beginning, the people that would work in the ERU on a daily basis, they would not reveal that there were national park staff. Initially, they pretended that they're from an NGO. However, they supported from an NGO, but formally they're still a national park staff, and nobody in the beginning would wear any kind of national park uniform. That has completely changed to the level where there is really a ongoing collaboration between the village heads, the community groups, to the level that they also actually work together on planting food for the captive elephants. Yeah. So some of the farmers, when they harvest their crops, many of them, they always will bring some food for the captive elephants. Like we also want to support the elephants because they help us. So it's actually not only that we are doing something that helps the community, the ongoing on a daily basis, the involvement of the community in the crop guarding, in the night crop guarding, the involvement of community people in the teams, so that they feel ownership. It's not anymore that they feel here we are on this side and the national park staff and the ERUs on the other side, but it's more that this, yeah, it's we are one team. We are working together, because at more than half of the staff from the ERUs is actually local community people, yeah, which are employed. So it has also developed in a kind of a job opportunity for, especially for young people, and we hope that for the long run, our national park, our staff in the national park, our counterpart in national park, tries to find a way that all the people from the local community, which are working as regular staff, in the future get accepted as government employees, which would be for them huge, yeah. Because if you are a government employee, however the salaries are not very high, but it's a secure salary, yeah. And if you stay with the government, they even will receive a pension, they will receive a health insurance, and so it would for them it would be and for us, for the status of the ERUs would even be stronger if you can achieve that within the, I would say, hopefully next 5 or 10 years, that if you employ people longer than a certain number of years, that they can become actually legally government employees. Yeah. So actually, yeah, again, the community, the work with the ongoing collaboration, ongoing communication with the community is a central part of the success of this concept. Yeah. Which also see now our teams in their use. Once in the villages, when there is a wedding, they always will be invited. Once there is an event in the community, they will be invited. On public holidays, Eid al-Fitr, so the biggest Muslim holidays, always a lot of local community people come inside the national park to the camps, yeah, and have kind of a picnic in the camp area and join with the teams. And we have now local community groups that work together as volunteers with the ERU. So there is an ongoing collaboration.
That evolution is fantastic. Haven't there been instances where the community has seen the effectiveness of the ERU in one location and lobbied for their own ERU in another location?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this definitely is the result of the existence of the 4 ERUs. When we started with one ERU, and there's started to be some impact on the conflict incidents. Another community asked why we are only working there and why we are not doing that. So we start the second one, and that covered a relatively large conflict hotspot in the northwest of the national park. And after 2-3 years, the information about the impact spread obviously also to the south, where another very important conflict hotspot is. And villagers from the village actually still have letters from them, initially did not approach the national park headquarters, but approached the team leaders from the ERU and addressed us and as a supporting group to establish another ERU in the south. And that is how it's actually the 2 ERUs in the south have been established, because there was a request from local communities to do the same what we are doing in the north. Yeah.
That's a true testament to the effectiveness of the program and the great work everyone's doing. Can you talk about what makes Way Kambas National Park uniquely important in protecting critically endangered Sumatran elephants?
Well, Way Kambas National Park actually is, although it's not very big, but it's probably contains the biggest remaining connected Sumatran elephant population. We have probably estimated a population between 160 to 180 animals, which is one population. Of course, we have in other areas, for example, in the north of Sumatra, in Aceh, we have more elephants within the province. But these, there is not, to my knowledge, that there is not one population remaining which is as big as the one in Way Kambas. This is one point where it's important. And also there is a number of other endangered species. Way Kambas is one of the very, very last remaining habitats for Sumatran rhinos. There are probably today, probably less than 60 or 50 Sumatran rhinos left in the wild. And Way Kambas National Park is one of the places where there's still some Sumatran rhinos left in the wild. We have Sumatran tigers in Way Kambas National Park. So we have tapirs, we have gharial crocodiles. So it's a number of highly endangered species living in the national park. So running these ERUs to prevent conflict in order to better protect the national park actually does not only benefit Sumatran elephants, but it benefits the entire habitat with a number of critically endangered animals.
Yeah, and that's very important. I think one of the questions that comes up a lot with the ERUs, people want to know, why are elephants used as transportation as opposed to vehicles? I think Westerners especially don't quite understand the terrain. So maybe discuss that.
Yeah, well, one thing is, of course, The elephants are not in the ERUs because we have decided we want to capture wild elephant, use them as patrol elephants. But these elephants have been captured from the wild, as I mentioned earlier, between the 80s and the 90s from conflict situation to remove the conflict situation. Just take the elephants out of the wild and put them in some camps where there was no activity, no concept what to do with the elephants apart from transferring some of these elephants to zoos and safari parks within Indonesia and some even abroad, but most within Indonesia. So my approach, or the approach of the people who doing working in this concept, is wants to go in two sides. One is, what are we going to do with these captive elephants? Yeah, how can we make use of these elephants, and how can we make their lives better? Yeah, because the conditions in the government camps really were not really, yeah, if you look into animal welfare, they would not really fit animal welfare needs for the elephants. So that is one point, that we bring smaller groups of elephants in areas where it is easier to maintain them because there's more natural food, and where there is a task fulfilled with these elephants, which actually gives a motivation to the mahouts to really regular work with the elephants and really take care for these elephants, because they depend on these elephants. That is from that side. And on the other side is in Way Kambas, or in many protected areas, of course you can walk there. Of course you can. No, you cannot, of course, go. Some areas actually quite inaccessible with vehicles, because especially in Way Kambas, we have a lot of, it's actually a flat area, it's a lowland area, and we have parts of the national park are swampy, which actually even by foot are difficult to pass, and definitely not passable by motorbikes. And if you say, okay, then we use these airboats, but it's only parts of the national park, you can only go so far, and there is not necessarily access to all swamp areas from the outside. So the elephants actually an excellent transportation vehicle inside the terrain, which partially is actually by any other vehicles not accessible, and by foot is a lot more difficult accessible than on elephant. The point for the elephant is actually that for the elephants themselves, it is actually an activity that very much benefits their welfare, because the elephants do get exercise, which is in many captive situations, not only in Indonesia, is an issue with captive elephants. Naturally, an elephant is active for 14, 15, 16 hours a day, just active because he has to walk around to search for food. Yeah? So when we give the needed amount of food, the immediate quantity and quality of food within a small space, the elephant, of course, does not have its natural trigger to be active, but still physiologically it should be active. So the patrol activity is actually a very good exercise for the elephant. It's an exercise that is conducted within their natural habitat. And during these patrols, also they have permanent access to a high variety of natural food plants, which again is has a very high nutritional value, which we cannot fully mimic with supplied food. The variety, it's not really about the total amount that they consume, but it's even more about the variety of different plants that the elephant have access during their patrol activities inside their natural habitat.
That's wonderful. The elephants get better care. The patrol gets to access places that they wouldn't normally be able to. It sounds like a win-win. We have about 10 minutes left, or 9 minutes. If anyone has any more questions, throw them in the chat. Why don't you talk a little bit? You have a great combination of knowledge with your veterinary training, elephant training, care, conservation work. Can you talk about how that combination of knowledge has helped in your work and help push this program forward?
Yeah, for me, the fact that I have been working before I started to work in Sumatra also a number of years as elephant handlers, elephant trainer in captive facilities in the Western world has helped me a lot to work well together with the mahouts. Yeah, which is for me also absolutely crucial as a veterinarian. I need to be able to approach the elephants. I need to be able to do things with the elephants if I want to take care for the elephants or treat the elephants. And as I mentioned earlier, the elephants in not only in Indonesia and many traditional Asian elephant countries, mostly not specifically trained for veterinary procedures. So if you want to do a mouth inspection, most elephants are definitely not trained for that. Of course, they will open their mouth to get some food inside the mouth, but that very often is not enough to really do a proper mouth inspection, check the teeth and things like that. And initially, when I started to work in Sumatra, mahouts would not believe me if I said we should train the elephants for this, we should train the elephants for that. The fact that I said, okay, if you don't believe me, or if we say it's not possible, let's do it together. I can show you how it is possible. And that was the big advantage, that the mahouts recognized that beyond a certain veterinary knowledge, I had also some knowledge about actually handling an elephant and working with an elephant. And so that I think that some mahouts actually were quite impressed, and that opened many doors to become part of the family. And initially, when I was working in Sumatra, I was solely working on healthcare work with captive elephants. So initially, I was not much involved or not really at all involved in specific conservation work. But that started because so now we're taking care for these captive elephants in the government camps, which are standing there from the morning until the afternoon, and from the afternoon in the morning without really doing anything, not having exercise, having not access to proper food. And we have a lot of conservation problems. We have human-elephant conflicts. We have illegal activities inside habitats. How can we combine that? And that is how I got actually involved in conservation work, in direct conservation work, and how I started to build also, to some extent, knowledge and expertise about conservation, specific on elephant conservation.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, obviously being able to bridge all of those gaps has benefited this project immensely. Well, you're getting praise in the chat. Everyone learned a lot. They're very happy that you were here. So I think we'll wrap up a little bit. Thank you so much for being here. Julie has a couple of announcements, and then I think everyone will give you a round of applause.
Yes, thank you so much. What a fascinating presentation and so informative. Thank you very much. If everybody would like to maybe turn your cameras on, and we'll give Dr. Stremme a big round of applause. That would be amazing. We thank him so much for his wonderful presentation and the work that he's doing there. I also want to mention that I know that there was a few people from some institutions that are on the call today that help support this work in Sumatra. And so if anybody's here from Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium, Tulsa Zoo, Growler Pines Tiger Preserve, White Oak Conservation Center, or the Berry Family Foundation, please give everybody a wave. We want to thank you so much, because those institutions have actually helped support this work in Sumatra over the last couple of years. So they couldn't do the work without our wonderful donors. And so if there are any other folks on this call that would like to help support this work, we would love to have you donate. And we'll be sending out a link with the video to this chat today to everybody on the call and everybody who was on our RSVP list. So there'll be information on there on how you can do that if you were moved by this presentation and want to help. So again, I want to thank you everybody for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing everybody on our next chat, which watch your emails, and I'll be sending out information on that. Is there anybody that has any final thoughts or anything before we sign off?
Maybe if you allow me to have a word, I actually want to also thank very much everybody who is supporting IEF, and through IEF is supporting this work in Sumatra. It's definitely you are as much part of the success that the people in the field are, because without you that are supporting this work from far away, it could just not happen. So it's absolutely crucial that your help that you're giving, and I'm extremely grateful to everybody that is supporting that. So we are hopefully able to continue this work and hopefully have a chance to conserve the Sumatran subspecies of the Asian elephant. So thank you very much, everybody, for your help and support.
Thank you, Dr. Stremme. We are so proud of the great work that IEF, enabled by all of our loyal donors, has been able to support. And thank you for spearheading it and being such a great partner for us for all these years. All right, I think we're good. Debbie, do you have any comments?
No, I was just going to say the same thing. Christopher, we're honored to be able to support you. And we look forward to many, many more years of support to you and your work in Sumatra. And all the boots and the entire team. We're just, we admire what you do. And again, we're just honored to support the very important and crucial work that you guys do.
Thank you very, very much. Really, indeed. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will definitely be in contact via email, so we will see you again soon.